Hey everybody, this is Den Francis, also known as Leonard Nolzner.
And I didn't think of a clever intro ahead of time.
Haha, raw improv, Victoria.
Da 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 da.
Like real improv actors. You're watching episode 102 of the Adventures in Odyssey Oddcast. We are talking about quoi aujourd'hui?
Forgiving Heart, the Odyssey episode of the month, and Manatugo Point, my Monopoly episode of Wit's Life.
CC. So news before we start. Okay, first thing off, next week, I don't know how long it'll be before it comes out, but Victoria and I are going to be guest starring in a very special episode.
It's special because we're there.
Yeah, of the Scoopcast. So yeah, for those who don't know, the Scoopcast is the podcast for the Odyssey Scoop, which is a very prominent fan website for this fandom, run by Jacob Isope Islam. So Jacob Isom runs it, and then he and Kevin and Garrett and those guys, they do the Scoopcast.
Kevin McCreary, Garrett Vandenberg.
For those who don't have time to listen or don't have time to read, whatever.
The ceiling fan is. You should recognize their names.
Anyways, so they have that podcast. We're gonna be on that. We're gonna be talking about some stuff. So it'll be stuff and that, and so look forward to that. And obviously when it comes out,
you're so eloquent with your words.
Obviously when that comes out, we'll tell you about it, Sneal Link. So that's exciting. We are slowly, dominating all of the other podcasts one by one.
This will be the third podcast we've been in, fourth for you.
Yeah, my voice was on the official podcast. We have this one. We've both been on the blogcast plenty of times, and now we're going to be on the Scoopcast. That's exciting.
We're slowly going to take over every single podcast as time goes on that belongs to Odyssey.
Very exciting news, and I talked about this on the Facebook page. So it was in the OAC newsletter. Before that, it was in Clubhouse Magazine. There was a very exciting announcement, and it's only like a week and a half away now.
You never told me where it came from. Neither did Austin.
A little blurb. Dr. Blackard returns. Has there ever been a bigger baddie in Odyssey than Regis Blackard? Relive those classic battles between good and evil in book form with fresh insights and special scenes that didn't appear in the audio dramas. The Blackard Chronicles is a new series of novels written by the creators of Adventures in Odyssey. As a club member, you'll get to read an advanced copy in the bonus section beginning November 16th.
It's really funny because Austin sent this to me, so I just saw the headline. And he's like, Victoria, have you seen this? And they said, Dr. Blackard returns. And my initial reaction was, oh no. That was my audible reaction. I was like, what have you done to this character? And then I read the rest and I was like, oh, okay.
So we'll most 100% certainly be doing book reviews.
Yeah.
For that.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
Maybe versus reviews. We're still figuring that out.
Yeah, it was some kind of, who knows. We'll figure it out when we get there. Point being, we should start talking about these episodes now.
Mm-hmm.
So, first episode, October OAC episode, A Forgiving Heart, episode 798, written by Phil Lawler. What happens in this episode, Victoria?
In this episode, what's the aunt's name? Aunt Pat. Okay. So,
Pat.
Our favorite character, Renée from Twilight, she's still around. So Renée has...
Esmeralda?
Yeah, Renée has her aunts in town, so then she introduces Wit to B Pat, and then B Pat's like, I have a dark and tragic past, but I can't tell you about it, even though it'd make things so much easier if I did right now. And then she gets like all these threats, and we find out
from the Norcom virus.
She's a murderer. She murders dogs. She's like a dog serial killer. And she killed Renée's dog.
I don't actually get what joke you're trying to make here.
I'll show you after.
Okay.
Anyway, she killed Renée's dog. And that's the reason Renée isn't a Christian anymore. And then Renée has like psychological PTSD flashbacks.
As opposed to what other kind of PTSD?
Exactly. And And then she's like, I'll never forgive my aunt. And then the title card comes up and it says Renée forgives her aunt. And then like the car crashes through the pet place and then they're all like, hey, I love you. And then it ends.
Yeah. That's the thing that goes down.
Yeah.
The haps.
I liked this one. What about you?
Yeah, I did. So, as soon as the episode starts, I was like, I assume that there's going to be some sort of emotional connection between Cogito and the fact that her favorite aunt is Yvette.
I call Renée Scottish Connie in my head. I was like... Because she's Scottish and she looks like Connie and she has like the exact same arc as Connie does.
Yeah, it was so tragic when we found out.
Eugene were combined into one being.
Emotional baggage when we found out that Connie's Aunt Helen killed Tiny, the dog.
Yeah. What about Kitty?
Kitty, that's what I meant. Sorry.
Who's Tiny? Boswell's in this episode!
So yeah, the fact that she's like, oh, this is my favorite aunt, and she's a vet. And I'm like, so there has to be some connection. Like maybe B-Pat gave Cog to Renée, or like she worked on him when he was sick or something. Like there clearly has to be some connection because Cog is like this central part of Renée's characterization. Truest words ever spoken on Adventures in Odyssey. College kids never turn down free food. And I'm like, accurate. Yeah. Phil knows whereof he speaks.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, Victoria feels that now. Finally understands.
Oh, we went grocery shopping this afternoon.
So I assume that this means that one of Renée's parents isn't Scottish, which is probably could be connected to what she's doing in Campbell County in Odyssey.
B-Pat's her Scottish accent was the highlight of the episode, Devin.
Especially, how dare you? I mean, granted, her aunt just moved to Odyssey. She wasn't here before, but maybe her American side of the family has some connection here, and that's why she moved here.
Whit has such a prevalent Scottish accent, too.
Yeah, I know, right?
She has the same Scottish accent Whit does, so shut your mouth.
Yeah, they're from the same part of Scotland.
They're from the part with no accent.
The North Carolina part of Scotland. So Norcombe shows up like a virus.
Wow. And, do you think that's why he's named that?
Yeah.
No, I'm serious. Like, do you think
I don't think so. And, he's like, yeah, your aunt... she murdered a whole farm of dogs, a whole breeding farm of dogs, which is a very serious accusation.
Yeah.
People are not happy with people who kill dogs, and people are very, very not happy with people who kill a lot of dogs.
Yeah, and also, like, he's stalking her. I was so not cool with his character. He's been stalking her to every single place that she has gone and tried to open a business and, like... spread all these rumors that we don't know are true or
slander,
false. And completely ruined her career every single place she's
for a very long time because
for like a decade or
she said that the longest it took him to find her was 5 years, which means there were lots of other times, including one that was 5 years and other ones that were shorter than that. So added together, this must have happened a really long time ago.
I would get a restraining order against him.
A serious grudge.
Like, can't you get a restraining order?
I would think so. Maybe there was some reason that she couldn't. Like, she didn't.
Maybe the judge was like a dog fan, and they're like, "I refuse to grant this restraining order."
Granted, from his perspective, if you thought someone had committed that serious of like gross veterinary malpractice, it would make sense that you'd want to shut them down so that they wouldn't kill anyone else's pets.
I can see that, but at the same time, I feel like he could have been like. If he took all the money he had, which was not a lot, and then he just kind of like tried to build from the ground up, he would be like at a better place than he was all that time ago.
Well, anything would be a better place than where he is now, which is driving cars into buildings.
In like the hospital or whatever. What the fuck is this? Okay.
So, yeah, so he did some bad stuff, but man, she did some really messed up stuff too. When she finally admitted what she did, I was like, that's a serious legal issue. Like trying an experimental drug on a sick dog without the consent or knowledge of the owner,
and
or
then
even
getting every single dog or even killed.
Well, I know, but that was unintentional. But I'm saying this she did on purpose. She experimented with a drug on a sick dog. She didn't tell the owner about the drug or even that the dog was sick in the first place. and then that led to enormous financial loss and animal death. Like, that is a huge lawsuit waiting to happen. He could have sued her pants off for that. And it sounds like she was the only one who didn't take the fall from that in the process, in terms of like her practice and stuff. And then
I wasn't cool with his character at all until I found that out, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, he actually has a really good case.
She was super in the wrong, and she's telling Renee, and then she's like, and it gets worse. And I was like, what could possibly be worse than
this? And she's like, I murdered your dog.
As soon as she starts talking, I was like, oh no, no, she killed Cog. I can't believe it. This is too much. Why would you do this? They mentioned the coyotes on the news when they're showing the news at the store and stuff. I thought that was cool. And I liked that they pointed out that Whit was watching the news streaming from his computer since he doesn't have a TV.
Oh, obviously. I missed that the entire time. I was like, why do you have a TV at Whit's End, you hypocrite? But
yeah, he specifically pointed out he was streaming the news on his computer, and I was like,
and they're like, it's still watching something, Whit.
I know. What's like binge watching Netflix on his computer?
I don't
and he's
have
like,
a
no.
TV, and I watch TV all the time. I just watch on my computer.
He's watching. Whit's like 7 seasons deep into something on Netflix, and Connie's like banging on the door, and he's like, I don't have a TV. It's fine. I like how this. I thought this was kind of hilarious.
But
in a sad
both know
way.
what he'd be 7 seasons into, right? Whitaker approved.
Oh yeah. Renee. She finds out, and she like about Cog, and she's just so angry. She can't forgive B-Pat.
Breakdown.
She's like, Mr. Whitaker, I can't forgive her. You can't imagine how important he was to me. You don't understand. I'm like, Renee, the last episode you were in, you heard Whit forgive the people responsible for the death of his eldest son.
Yeah.
Where are you trying to come from on this?
I thought she was kind of, and by kind of I mean extremely, overreacting about everything.
Yeah, I mean, I understand it was traumatic, but when she said that to Whit, I'm like, literally the last episode you were in, Whit's like, these people are responsible for my son dying, but I forgive them now. And now Renee's like, you don't understand what I'm going through.
My dog I had for 5 weeks is dead.
And then
I'm not a Christian anymore because of this.
Ted Humphries showed up.
Ted Humphries
was cool.
was one of the highlights of the episode for me.
When I was looking at, for some reason, I thought that Ted Humphries, I was mixing him with Brock Peterson in my mind. I was like, wow, shout out to Darkness Before Dawn. But no,
Ted Humphries is the dude from Green Ring.
Yes, and A Penny Saved as well.
When Ted Humphries was talking, I was like, where's Kevin in the background? I can't hear him.
Also, yeah, and he's like, then as soon as I remembered, I was like, my parents watch you every night. Helps put them to sleep. I'll get an Oscar for this. And then Norcom drives into the clinic.
Yeah, that was the thing.
Which was, like, the way they made it sound in the news and stuff.
I thought he was gonna be dead.
It was horrific. I figured that B-Pat was gonna be, like, seriously injured.
I thought she was gonna be dead, and
I didn't think she'd die, but I
thought he was gonna be dead. After freaking The Cure, I will not put it past him to kill every single character in this series. I
like how after that happens, though, they go to the scene.
And B-Pat's like, I'm fine.
No, but they're like,
I was like, oh, okay. I thought you were going to be dead.
The guy who drove the car into the clinic, his name was Norcom, and Whit's like, it was Norcom? I'm like, who else would have crashed their car into the clinic? Really?
Do you think it was his car? I don't think it was his car.
It was probably his car. Why wouldn't it be?
Why he's crazy?
He must have a car here. Why would he steal someone else's to do it?
Because he's crazy?
Anyways, and then speaking of really Ted, he's like, this is the best news story I've ever covered. I'm like, better than a plane crashing into Gower's Field? Better than the follow-up of a major counterfeiter scandal for millions of dollars centralized in your own small town that you got to exclusively cover? That was all not nearly as good as a guy drove into a
And then he sees like clinic. A bird, and he's like, "This is the best story I've ever covered."
Those are gonna be my Oscar for sure. Because they give Oscars for news reporting. That's not even like even closer if we had to pick something than say an Emmy.
Like, yeah, Ted, you're fired.
So Renee forgives her and stuff. I'm really looking forward to seeing Renee's walk to faith, how it develops over time.
I feel like, considering how fast it's moving, I feel like she's gonna go through things like, I don't know, like 10 times faster than Connie ever did.
It does seem very quick, which makes
her
partial
arc really
sense
reminds
because
me of Connie's arc.
It makes partial sense because it's the OAC, so they have like less episodes to work with per unit time.
But I feel like she's going to be a Christian in like 1 or 2 episodes, basically.
Yeah, I feel like
I actually kind of wondered if she was going to become a Christian today, or in this episode, because she was already like practicing things that she didn't practice anymore.
I want it to be more drawn out and developmental.
I feel like it's going to happen in the next episode of this, right?
Well, in terms of the overall arc, there are some things to point out about this episode. One is that I feel like it makes a lot of sense. It was very wise, writing-wise, to bring in a member of her family here, like someone she was familiar with from before Odyssey, not just to like expose more backstory stuff, but it gives her someone familiar that she can bounce stuff off of, like when
they did with Connie.
Exactly. It's like with Wit.
The thing is, Connie became a Christian in the next episode.
Next episode after what?
Connie Part 1.
What? Oh, you're talking about her dad.
I'm talking about, like, her friends.
No. I mean, I would say Connie had other people to bounce things off of, like her mother or her friends in Odyssey and stuff like this. Like, I mean, Renée right now, the only people Renée can really talk to, because everyone in Odyssey is new to her, and they're basically all Christians. Like, she's working with Connie, Eugene, and Wit and stuff. Giving her someone familiar from her past is like, oh, now I can relate these experiences, and it gives me a more opportunity to tell her about the things that are happening to me. Because when she's talking to Wit, she doesn't want to talk to Wit about...
She can talk to her robot dog.
About how, yeah, she has Cog, but now she has someone who will actually feed back with her, which is really important. The other thing, and this kind of surprised me, was the fact that they kind of... I figured it wouldn't take long for Wit to find out about Cog, and like that was what caused her to lose her faith, but I didn't figure that she would kind of like... find closure on that so quickly, because in terms of the arc of her faith, it's like that was the thing that started out, that was the inciting incident that tore her away from her faith, was Cog. So I figured she'd have to go through all of these things, and then it would climax in her finally being able to forgive and have closure on how that happened, and it's like, oh, now that's completed the arc, we've come around and completed the initial thing that did that, so now she can believe again. But it happened a lot sooner than I thought that she did it in this episode. So
Same.
Either that means that I was just wrong, or like you said, it means that her arc is almost over already.
Almost over.
I really hope it's not.
I feel like that's my only negative comment really about the episode overall, is her arc is moving really fast. Yeah. And I can totally understand why it is.
I really hope that she appears outside of the OAC.
I don't think she will.
I really hope she's not just on the OAC. It's how things are looking at this point. Once album 62 comes out, that'll probably let us know for sure.
She's going to become a Christian, and then she's going to leave Odyssey, and we're never going to see her again.
Oh.
I'm being a realist here.
I noticed
Wit
never explicitly pointed out, which I actually thought that he would, pointed out the little object lesson about this little niggy line about, because Norcom went out for revenge, and they're like, yes, Norcom was the only one who was physically injured in the incident. And I was like, oh, what's going to make some point about the lesson? They didn't, but it was still there at this point. They're like, oh, Norcom went out for revenge, and he ended up being the only one who got hurt in the process. Less morals.
Symbolism.
Yeah. And then...
I don't really have a lot to say about this episode. Just that I think that her arc's moving too fast.
In the video documentaire, we start off by getting a peek at the annual Adventures in Odyssey Writer Summit, and we hear from Amy Pemberton on playing Renée D. Carter. Amy said it's important to know the backstory when you go into a role, and so when she started, Phil sat her down, and in my mind, I thought she was going to say, he was like, here's 800 episodes, listen to this.
No, they actually have a chart for Kingdom Hearts for explaining it to new writers.
I know. But she just really meant that he told her Renee's tragic backstory, and I was like, "Oh darn it!" It was like, here's your required reading for
when you said that, I never thought he was talking about every episode of Odyssey.
That's what I thought. It
says when you go into a role, know the backstory, and I'm talking about the backstory of the character,
the backstory of the show that you're on. No. And then Bob, he talks to a vet, and she talks about getting to stitch up a cougar's paw at a large cat sanctuary and stuff.
And you're like, I don't like cats.
And we hear a pastor.
Are you a cat person?
I mean, I don't mind cats. What?
I don't like cats.
We hear from a pastor talking about forgiveness, and then these scenes are all interspersed with smugly teasing lines about and shots of the writer's room secrets. And they just keep on coming back. They're like, man, that's such a good idea and stuff like that. And then there'll be the whiteboard, it'll be out of focus and stuff. And then they'll just have
there's
music.
Actually just scribbles everywhere.
Music
right?
over them, talking, they're like wording things to each other without the audio, and I'm just sitting there like, yeah, because they're like they're being really smug about the way they tease it, and I was just like,
you know, they're not actually saying any spoilers, right?
well, I mean, they could have been filming anything because it was the actual writers' room summit, so they could have grabbed footage at any point.
Still, I feel like they would have just said every single line in succession, and then they would have been like, okay, now we can get back to work.
Well, no, I don't think they filmed it forever. Yeah, I'm sure it's just a very short period that was cut apart.
Like, they're like, oh, that's a good idea. But what if Katrina said, Buck just died?
They didn't have any audio of them talking in the room.
Okay.
It was all either just shot. It was all just shots with music on it, or Bob would like peek his head out to the camera and be like, "They're talking about really exciting stuff in there. It's so exciting and amazing. If only you guys could hear it."
I hope they're like, so we think Connie should be wearing an orange shirt in this episode,
and then someone, Kathy Buchanan, flips the table.
It will be green.
Green eyes and yellow tulips. And so since Bob is in the writers' meeting for whatever reason. The camera is mostly just getting passed in between bits. Is getting passed back and forth between the camera guys who are trying to pass time while Bob is in the meeting, and they're like, "Oh, when's he coming out? I'm so hungry."
I'm hungry.
I'm hungry too. So that's what happens in that. Nothing super notable in the web quest. So overall, with the episode, it's great that we get Renée episodes, things focused on her. It was great that we got to learn a little more about her backstory. We got to see her develop more. And like I said, in terms of overall stuff, it's really good for setting up the ability of her to develop, for her to bring in like someone familiar from her past that she can, have to be like, oh, she can discuss like, oh, this is what I'm feeling and this is what I'm thinking about things that are happening. Because she can't have those discussions with Whit or Connie when she feels like, oh, I'm kind of like wrestling with them on the issue of faith and stuff. She needs to have a confidant.
The arc ends.
What?
I want it to end with her deleting the COG program because she has emotional closure.
That I was my other thing was like it was weird that she forgave the stuff for COG so quickly. It seemed like that'd be the end of the arc, but that is the perfect end of the arc. Finally, I mean, it seems like both those things should happen at the same time, but that is like that's the true pacifist ending. That's my ideal ending for her arc. The COG program because she's like, I've moved on now. She's like Princess Allura. She's like, it's okay, Father COG. Aww. You can rest in peace now.
It's basically that. Yeah, when I first started listening to Renée's episodes, I was like, this is like Voltron.
So yeah, really not a lot to say about this episode.
Hey.
Veterinary stuff. So we have a new vet.
Do you think I can get away with claiming the title of Wellington's #1 fan?
Maybe.
I feel like I am.
It's entirely possible.
If there's any fans who think they're more of a fan of Wellington than I am,
fight!
I dare them to challenge me. I will fight them to the death.
I don't really Gavin Free there.
I got $2.
You guys, the idiots.
I'm gonna sell all my Monopoly money for real money.
Really skirting the edges of what's acceptable in the employee handbook here. In terms of vet, so it's like, I guess, Dr. Mulligan saw the picture. That one Brosif from One Bad Apple. There's another vet. Who am I? Oh yeah, the Dr. Animal guy from Mayor for a Day, who set up shop in the hospital.
Yeah, it's a funny name.
Did he have a funny name?
I think he did.
So yeah, so we got a new vet competition. If everyone else is still around, which they probably ain't. But yeah, episode overall
3.5 for me.
Give it a 3.8. It was great to have like this development stuff for Renée, and it was, it was emotional, like very emotional to see.
Very emotional. I was listening to on the bus as usual,
yeah,
so I was just
to see her like, because we know this the stuff with COG is the most emotional thing for her, and Pat is like the person she trusts most in the world. So to see her have like this horrific betrayal, and the fact that Pat's never told her all these years that she was the reason that COG died, and just like ruined her life forever,
eating her up inside.
Was yeah, that was good. I give it a 4. I'll raise it. Yeah, because it was emotional. It was good.
I feel like a lot of things were rushed, so that's why I'm giving it a 3.5.
Yeah, I feel like that the whole thing, like I feel like it was a lot of emotion that could have had a lot more like time to process that forgiveness and stuff like that and dealing with that stuff. Could have been more
Draw out the pain.
more time, yeah. Drawn and quarter those emotions. So yeah. I don't even know if B-Pat's ever going to show up again, honestly.
Probably
that's
not.
Since it's the Odyssey, it's so unpredictable.
Okay, is that everything?
I think so. Do you have anything else to say?
I'll show you what that Renée thing was about.
Alright, so 4 from me, 3.5 from Victoria.
Yep.
Now we're going to talk about, it's October, only 3 episodes left for the Year of Wit this year, so we're going to talk about Rescue from Manatugo Point. Battle of Guadalcanal, 1942. So I'll turn you over to that right now. So, let's talk about episode 93, Rescue from Manatugo Point, written by Paul McCusker. What happens in this episode, Victoria?
In this episode, we learn a little bit more about Wit when he was in the war, and he tells Connie about it. And he
doesn't tell Connie about it.
He doesn't tell Connie.
He's like,
about it.
You can read about it.
And so he's like, about lieutenant or lieutenant or however you pronounce it.
Well, it depends where you're from.
Or where do they pronounce it? Lieutenant?
In
England?
Britain, yeah.
Okay. Lieutenant, what's his...
Reginald Duffield.
Reginald Duffield. I wish he was in more episodes. His son was almost in Waylaid, but then they didn't do that.
Yeah.
I'm glad they didn't though, because I feel like they would have made him a bad guy.
I don't think that was the plan.
Did. Oh, I thought he would be like the government guy. Anyway, so yeah, you learn about Wit and like this guy he met in war, and then there's this little kid who's played by Katie Lee. I think.
Malanga.
Yeah, I think it was the first time she played like a little boy on.
No, I think in some of the first couple episodes, like first 1 or 2 or 3 episodes, she played a couple.
Oh right, she played like Bobby.
One off, yeah.
Something like that.
Like, oh, I'm a bully character.
Valentine, Bobby's Wait,
no,
Bobby's,
that was Jimmy.
Bobby's Jimmy.
But there were other. I'm sure there were many Bobbies in the early episodes. She would just be like
Pete,
1 or 2 off lines.
But he wasn't in it till later. Anyway, yeah, that's what this episode's about. War, and then it ends.
Nothing else to say?
Nothing else to say.
What's the theme of this episode, Victoria?
I didn't have enough time to re-listen.
Do you know what the theme of this episode is? Because it's a very good question. What is the
I don't
moral
know what the theme of this episode is. I don't think it has one.
Well,
I don't remember it having one.
We'll get there. It's always it's always been one of the most confusing things to me about this episode.
Pass me the guide, I'll check.
Oh yeah, let's go see what it says.
Wait, did you look it up or no?
No.
Oh, I'll look it up. Keep on talking.
So, from the top, shout out to one of Connie's most classic lines. Feels like I've been 16 forever. It's funny we're doing this because...
Girl, you have been 16 forever.
A couple weeks ago, Rose Willen, a.k.a. Snubs, many-time mayor of the TOO, sent me a Facebook message asking about Connie's perpetual hexadecanuality, which is a neologism I made up for being 16 perpetually, for a meme for her AIOO Moments Facebook page. She said she figured it would be easier to ask me how many IRL...
I thought Connie was 32, for reference. And Eugene was like 33 or 34.
I thought you meant in this episode.
No,
I thought you were being sarcastic.
I mean like current day, but apparently Devin said they're like 23 or something.
Well,
like
no,
that.
I'm saying I feel like she's like 26-ish or so. There's no word on that. Yours is just as valid as mine. But yeah, she wanted to know how long Connie was 16, and she figured it, like in real life, how long, and she figured it would be easier to ask me than to try and do the research, which is correct. It is much faster to ask me. I responded... Well, it is. It would be... You'd have to listen to a lot of episodes to try and put together
I'm the
clips
guru
to
of all knowledge when it comes to
I responded that the earliest we know Connie was 16 was in The Return of Harley, because Connie was first learning to drive there, and her age is confirmed a few episodes later in Thank You God, when June mentioned spending 16 wonderful years as Connie's mother. And then since Connie's birthday is in late summer, as we mentioned from her horoscope in Gotcha, as mentioned last week, that means that according to the American school system and the way that you age in that, just like the Canadian one, Connie would have graduated at age 17 and then turned 18 over the summer, which means she turned 17 just prior to starting grade 12, which means she was 16 up until right before that. And the one about trust takes place at the beginning of Connie's second semester in grade 12, so Connie was 16 up until about 6 months before that in show. So the earliest you could reason that being is during or close to about the first hiatus.
Malachi's message, she'd be 18 in that, wouldn't she then? Or 17?
7.
Because, like, the new college session is about to start, and that's how, like, the episode opens with Connie and Eugene talking about how Connie hasn't applied for college yet.
Yeah, but that could still be in the middle of the summer at that point.
Well, I said she'd be 17 or 18.
Oh, but it is during the school year because the kids are on their field trip.
Yeah.
Good point. So yeah, so she would be 18 at that point. So the one about trust, so the earliest you could reason it is during the first hiatus, since the one about trust happened pretty shortly after that, and the show came back on a Christmas two-parter after that hiatus between albums 28 and 29.
So album 32, she's 18 years old.
So it's about 9 years in real life that Connie was 16. What does it say for the theme of the episode?
Guess.
Something about time being short.
God holds the future.
Sure.
Sure.
So, as I always say, yeah, so I've always thought it was a really bit of a weak connection in this episode between the shortness of life and Joseph's brothers leaving him, or seeing him in Egypt, and then Reggie leaving Malanga behind. Like, they're all marginally connected. Stop it. Marginally connected to each other if you stretch it, but none of those things actually all have the same theme between them. It's always seemed to me that the lesson of this episode was a bit tacked on just so they could tell the story, which would enable the next episode, Operation Dig Out, which does actually have a good theme in it.
There are sparkles.
It was a means to an end, just like we were just talking about in our verses with Philo's storyline in Gotcha. It makes a reference to Connie's curiosity with regards to applesauce. He'll just never stop jeering her about that. And then Whit pulls out his journal. So this is probably the first reference to Whit's journals.
I feel like Connie's still being teased about applesauce nowadays.
Oh, probably.
Even though, like, it was Eugene's fault, basically, as much as it was hers.
It really wasn't, though.
Well, okay, his a little bit less, but he still was at fault slightly.
By
not locking the door. And explaining and showing Connie everything.
Okay, that's fair, I know.
He could have just said, get out, and then locked the door and, like, shoved her out of the room.
He could have.
He didn't have to explain in very precise detail and show her the last battle and the key and every other thing. He is as at fault as much as Connie is.
Good point.
I will argue this.
I'm really curious. It makes me, whenever I think about this kind of thing, how many years into the real life future is this show going to continue to acknowledge that Whit fought in World War II? Because as time goes on, I mean, it was one thing when this was 1987.
It's gonna be like year,
but it's now 2016.
3000.
Adventures.
Whit fought in World War II. He's still
Adventures in Odyssey turns 30 next year. It turns 30 in a year and like 2 weeks. So, you know, as time goes on, it becomes increasingly impossible from an age standpoint. Whit is probably relatively close at this point to outliving every real-life World War II vet. He probably will.
Yeah.
Which is quite sad.
World War II vet that's like 120 and still alive right now.
But Whit will probably continue to live longer than he will, unfortunately.
True. I think it was a she, actually.
She, sorry.
Oh, that's like the first time I've ever caught you do that in such a long time.
Wow.
And we caught it on camera, too.
Wow, bad.
No one will believe you when you say you never do that now, because we caught it on camera.
Wow, look at me, assuming gender.
Oh, you feel bad about yourself.
I do. And it makes sense. It does make a lot of sense, because women have a much higher life expectancy.
Well, I shouldn't have said vet, although I think she was technically a vet, because I think she might have been a nurse or something like that. So she'd technically not
a vet.
Then. Well, whatever. She was alive,
someone who participated, then. Yeah, but not someone who was a vet.
Whatever. What if I meant animal vet during World War II?
The oldest veterinarian from
I'm
World
a
War
World
II.
War II vet. I looked after all their horses.
Now that I'm so anal about keeping up on all of the little bits of lore that we get for Wit in very specific detail, so I can continue to update, and soon I do need to do an updated version of our Wit's lore episode, because we've gotten so much more since then, and stuff I forgot in the first place.
Happy Year of the Wit.
I'd never noticed before that we get specific dates for Wit becoming a signalman and arriving on the Iron Gate. Both of those, he gives like the exact date that happened.
Why did you write about potatoes?
Don't look ahead. So another thing from the original lore that I'd forgotten about that'll have to be updated once we do that. I love how much of a keener Wit is when he first arrives on the boat, because he's such a noob and everything, but he's read all the books about all of this, and he's like, this is a nice looking patrol torpedo...
Bless you.
It's a nice looking patrol torpedo boat, sir. And all the captain's like, don't call it that. And I'm like, besides, everyone knows that PT stands for potato thriller.
True that. What does PT actually stand?
It was playable trailer, I think is what it was.
Oh.
Yeah.
I never
it actually
knew
had
that.
It was nothing specific to Silent Hill or any of the content in the trailer.
Yeah, I don't understand why it was a trailer if it didn't have to do with anything.
Well, because I think it was more about gameplay and spoopy and stuff like that, but then the game ended up not getting made because Kojima...
They happy birded it and they got rid of it.
Well, Konami and Kojima and all that stuff happened.
I feel like they shouldn't have gotten rid of it at least.
Hideo, why? But then we'll get Death Stranding, we'll get Norman Reedus and the fetus stuff. So
Norman Reedus' fetus.
Yeah.
Hold me.
Anyways,
moving
on from E3 2016, I love how I mean, it's such a stereotype, and I get that they were going for the low hanging fruit of jokes, but it's so funny to me how Duffield has an entire cave just to keep his tea while he lives under active fire in the middle of a rainforest in a war. It's so
exaggerated.
That's literally what it is,
joke. Though. I know.
Oh, I thought you were saying I was exaggerating.
No, I mean it's exaggerated just for the joke.
The best line though, even above that in the episode,
like that's something I would do, but not actually do. I just joke about.
The best line in this episode is when Duffield is doubting if Whit and Evans are really Americans, and the captain snaps at him, tells him to get off his butt and get moving. He's like, "Yeah, okay, you're Americans." And also he's like, could I get one of you to carry the tea? I forget the tea.
No.
And all I can think of now when Duffield is shooing Malonga away and being like, I don't want to see you again, get out of here, is that Bigfoot movie with Harry something or whatever like that. You know what I mean?
Talking about?
You know. What's it? I'll Google it on the fly.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Harry, something Harry. Harry and the Hendersons, that's what it is.
What is that? It's horrifying looking.
Of the movie, I'm like, get out of here, I don't want to see you again, and stuff like that.
What was that horrifying thing you just showed me?
It's already hard enough for me to take Malonga seriously, given that it's always Connie clearly in my head, like, yeah, it's Connie.
It's Katie.
So I already can't take it seriously, and then that comes in, and it's like, oh, great. Another good quote, when Duffy's like, Whittaker, is that Scottish? And Whit's like, yes, it is. Like, well, I'll try not to hold it against you. I like that line.
Okay, that's funny now that I know more about
Alternative
history.
take of that line is, Whittaker, is that Scottish? Yes, it is. Well, why do you not sound the remotest bit Scottish then? You have literally no accent. Yeah, but I love, he's like, well, I'll try not to hold it against you. And Whit's like, ha ha. But clearly internally is like, son, I will cut you. Don't test me or my country. So back to the theme. It is pretty muddled here. I can understand, I can appreciate
I can't figure out what the theme is.
How the fleetingness of time and making use of it can connect to Malonga being left behind, because it's like, oh, make the most of the time with the people you care about. But I would not connect that to the sons of Israel having their actions come back to bite them later because Joseph became vice pharaoh.
That doesn't have anything to do with that.
They're almost connected, except in like opposite ways, and it really just boils down to a setup for part 2 of this story, which has an actual theme, and there's really not any coherent theme to this episode whatsoever.
Soundbites. Katie Lee voices Malonga. What?
Well, read it now that you're reading it.
Katie Lee voices the young boy Malonga in Rescue to Manatugo Point. Katie also used a similar tone when she overdubbed the voice of young Maharaja in the film Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom from 1984. My brain stopped working there for a minute.
Are you going to read the other one, or should I?
You read it.
Soundbites with Dave Arnold. My biggest studio error came during the recording of Rescue from Manatugo Point. We recorded Hal Smith's narration bits separate from the drama sections. I was the only person in the control room, and Phil Lawler was in the studio with Hal. 40 minutes into the recording, I looked back at the tape deck. We recorded everything on analog tape at that time, because technology hadn't been invented yet, and saw that I hadn't enabled the record heads. A bead of sweat instantly came across my brow. If the record heads aren't enabled, all that happens is the reels turn, but nothing is actually recorded. I asked Hal and Phil to hold on, praying that a miracle would occur and somehow the audio magically got onto the tape. I rewound the reel and listened. Nothing. The entire 40-minute session had been for naught. Beat red from embarrassment, I had to confess to the guides about what happened. Although I could see frustration on Hal's face, he just started over and never said one unkind word.
Didn't that happen when they did the
It was a similar thing with the Mortal Coil too, yeah.
Yeah, at that point, Hal's like, I'm gonna die out of spite.
It's kind of...
That joke was too soon.
It's kind of similar to when you were recording your audio for like a BGTO or something like that,
Yeah, that
and we got to the very end.
I was so angry.
And except that time, it was you who's doing the recording, and you found out that you hadn't been recording all along, so it was entirely your fault who screwed yourself over in that
I was
point.
so angry.
Yes, you were.
Because I pressed the play button,
yep.
So it was moving, but I didn't press
She didn't press record.
That was awful.
But we got through it.
Oh, I'm having PTSD flashbacks. That was... Why did you remind me of that?
So, this episode...
I like this episode. I feel like it's not as good as the next one.
Yeah, it's really just a lead-in in every way to this. I mean,
Why
I like
wasn't Reginald in more episodes?
I don't know, maybe the actor wasn't available.
He was...
The only episode...
I was going to say, we should review other episodes with him, but we did review the other episode with him already. Best Friends.
Oh, yeah, it was the very best of Friends.
Yeah, we recorded that one.
Yeah, that's true. We have reviewed that.
Yeah.
We did that
so we already talked about, I assume, how much we like him in that episode.
We did that for episode 52, I would assume it would have been.
Karen.
Yeah, because we did Karen for 50.
Yeah.
Because it's the 50th episode. And that's the sequel to it, so we would have done on the next review, which would have been 2 episodes after that. Mm-hmm. So 52. So we'll have reviewed every single Reginald Duffield episode.
Oh! Heck yeah!
That's why we call this the Year of Reggie.
Yeah! We didn't record the episode 50 and 52 ones, like, this year, though.
No, but we also had other Wits lore episodes that have happened in the past.
True. Yeah. Happy Year of Reggie, guys!
Yeah. The point is we're finishing off Wits lore, and more importantly, we're finishing off Reginald Duffield, Lieutenant Reginald Duffield. So yeah,
Everyone's favorite character.
This episode then, in just about every way, is just really a setup for the next one. So the theme, certainly, because they're just like, we need to get this story to set up the next one, so I guess we need to put a theme in there somewhere, into this style of like longer sagas, when they're like, we'll write Novacom, and then we'll just figure out what the themes are afterwards, and just kind of wibble them in.
I'm tired.
I mean, it also applies to stuff like the fact that there's no resolution to anything that happens on Whit or Connie's perspective. She like brings him the mail, he gets a letter, and he's like, Manatugo Point, and then looks in his journals, and then hours pass, and he's like, oh, don't worry, Connie, I figured it out. Maybe you can read it sometime. And then that's the end of the episode. And
Connie's just like, what the heck? And he's like, get back to work.
As far as present day stuff.
As far as present day goes, we don't know if she ever found out. Reginald Duffield's just like, oh, you know my story. When he came in, she's like, actually, I don't. Can you tell me? And he's like, oh, kids these days. And he keeps on walking. She's like, someone tell me.
I got a suitcase full of mosquitoes, like this is Night Vale or something. I'm the man with the tan jacket. That's who it was all along.
That's what's in his jacket. That's what he looks like. He's just a bunch of mosquitoes being held up by it.
It's in his suitcase, not in the trench coat.
Shut up.
That's what the book is about. That's the man in the tan
I know.
jacket.
I know. I read the back of the book.
So yeah, that's about it for the episode.
Am I posing like sun in today's episode?
Yeah, I came up with the word hexadecanuality for it, which was fun.
Yeah, what's that?
16, her perpetual 16ness.
Oh,
16-year-oldness.
You should put that in Urban Dictionary.
That's not an urban word, though.
Connie Kendall.
Yeah. Perpetual hexadecanuality.
Hey, if half the words in Urban Dictionary can go in Urban Dictionary, that sure as heck can go in Urban Dictionary.
Touché. Actually, when I first wrote it, I had to practice a couple times to figure out where to put the emphasis to say it.
Hexadecanality.
Yeah, close enough. Yeah, I really feel like we need to say more about this, but I'm like...
I have, like, less than nothing to say about this episode. I feel bad for saying this, but I'm not really a big fan of Katie's voice for young male characters.
Yeah, neither am I, because to me it's just Katie doing a voice. It's not a different person. It's just like, oh, it's like we were talking about earlier with Sun. It's like, oh, well, this is...
I feel like the closest I ever came to feeling like it was a separate person was with Pete, because he was in more than one episode. But I still didn't.
From the beginning, I was always very confused, especially when they're like, oh, the boy. I'm like, I didn't realize Malanga was supposed to be a boy for years. Because I knew that he was Connie. I knew that he was Connie, and so I'm like, well, it must be girl then, Malanga. And it's like, it's not like in Western civilization that we're going to have a very clear distinction on what the intended gender of that name is. So...
See, this is why I've never really liked it growing up when older women play younger boys. Except for the only person I've ever had play a younger boy who was an older woman, and it never bothered me whatsoever, was... Brina, I'm trying to remember her last name.
I mean, it happens a lot.
It happens a lot, especially in anime.
I very rarely know that it's happening.
But in Black Butler, the lady who plays CL, Brina Pancia, or whatever her last name is, she does a really good job, and you can't really tell that she's a woman.
So does Nelson Swanson's voice bother you then?
Oh, no, Nelson doesn't bother me.
What about Spike in MLP?
Also... Spike, it took me a while to get used to Spike's voice, honestly. And when he sings, he sounds like a woman. But Bajit, did you know that Bajit is played by a woman?
I did not, from Phineas and Ferb.
I totally forgot about that. And I was watching Milo Murphy's Law today, and there's like a little Latina girl in it. And I found out that her voice actress is the same one who plays Bajit. And I was just like,
this sounds familiar.
No, she doesn't sound like Bajit at all, though.
So why does this little Latina girl sound like a little Indian boy?
Someone put it in the comments, and everyone was like flipping out because no one realized that they were the same people.
Yeah, nothing confuses me more than like looking at the picture of what Nelson Swanson's VA looks like. I'll put up a picture right here.
Gosh.
This is who voices Nelson Swanson in the Truth Chronicles and the Green Ring Conspiracy.
She's so pretty. Oh my gosh.
And it's like, well, that's unexpected.
But you know who in Arizona Sunrise,
and I guess Tara Strong obviously voices lots of young boys. Timmy Turner voiced
Tara Strong. It bothers me now. It never bothered me.
Well, because I know her voice.
But now it does because I know her voice too well. I always thought like, oh yeah, that's a boy growing up with Timmy though. But in Arizona Sunrise with who is Katrina's original?
Pamela Hayden, right? Or is she the latter one? No, it's.
I think Pamela's the one she is right now.
Yeah, Pamela Hayden is the new one. Who's the original one?
I'm not sure.
I know her name.
She plays like a little girl, Kalika Dea. She plays Kalika Dea. And when Kalika Dea first appeared, I always thought Kalika Dea was a man, like a little boy, because...
Oh, because it sounds kind of like Connie's...
It sounded like Connie's, like, young boy voice. But then they keep on saying girl, so I always forget what gender Kalika Dea is, and I always forget what gender Malanga is, and it's just a huge mess.
Bum, bum, bum.
Katrina Melchner.
Pamela was the first one, and then Audrey Wazlewski is the current one.
You're right, that's right. I'm still not 100% used to hearing her being called Katrina Melchner. Is that weird? I feel like that's weird.
I mean, it's been like... a decade at this. Well, like a decade and a half at this point. So
I listened to episodes. I never.
It has been the majority of your life that she's been Katrina Meltzner. So
she was Katrina Meltzner to me long before I ever heard any episodes before she was married to Eugene.
That's true as well.
So it makes less than no sense.
So yes, it is weird.
Yeah, I know, and it bothers me that every time they're like, I'm normal. I'm like used to hearing her being called
Katrina
Mrs.
Shanks.
Meltzner.
Oh yeah.
Like every time someone's like Mrs. Meltzner, I'm like that's Katrina. But they say Katrina Meltzner, I'm like, who are you talking about? Who is this character? I don't recognize them.
I don't know her.
I don't know her.
Yeah, hey, look, we found something else to talk about in the episode. Totally related, right?
It's kind of related.
Yeah. So...
At least I brought something to the discussion.
Sorry. Yeah, this episode... I feel like I should have more positive things to say about it.
But I don't.
Thank you, Wit, for fighting in Guadalcanal, which was an actual battle in 1942. And Wit's fighting in that battle is what people typically use to set the bar of him being...
where Wit's swimming and then he almost gets killed, but then I realize that's in the next one.
And his ear gets Van gone.
You're not the first person who's told that joke, so
About Wit?
No, just about Van Gogh.
Yeah, but I'm connected to Wit.
But it has to do with Van Gogh originally, so it's not as...
We should wrap this up. What do you rate this episode, Victoria?
You rate first. I rated first last time.
I was hoping you would forget.
No, I never forget.
I know. It's the first time for everything.
Yeah, like when you misgendered that lady.
Who apparently wasn't a vet, I'd like to point out.
You don't know that.
You said that.
She might be a vet at something else.
I said World War II vet, though, was the point.
She was alive during World War II, and she's probably a vet about something.
That is not how it works.
Shut up. Rate the episode. You're just putting it off.
I'm gonna give this episode 3.5. It's just like there's not a lot that happens in this episode. In the end, none of it has a point except for Wit to have met Duffield. That's it. But
I like the relationship a lot, and it's a good episode in my opinion still, even though all those things are true. I'm gonna give it a 3.25. Yeah.
3.3 from Victoria. So, that's the end of that. What are we doing next time, Victoria? Something exciting.
Book review!
What are we talking? Which book?
Oh, I want to end the episode there.
I know, but we need to say what we're actually talking about.
Do we?
Yeah, we do. Because there's so many book series.
The Mongol one. The Imagination Station, third book.
Yeah. It's funny because...
Missionaries and Mongols. I can't remember what it's called.
Peril of the Palace.
Peril of the Palace.
A Peril of the Palace, according to you in the last one. I just remembered. Is what you thought it was called.
I can't remember.
You thought it was A Peril of the Palace. It was about them wearing clothes.
That would be way better than what we got.
Oh, dear goodness. So it's a book, loosely speaking, and
I wouldn't call it a book.
We're going to talk about it next time.
I wouldn't call it a book. Bye, guys.
Yeah, so see you then.
Bye.
Bye.